MVP. When you look back at the season from hell that the Fever had, none of us expected them to be in this situation. None of us expected them to be winning a very close game.
Hold up, hold up, hold up. Did you just hear what I heard? Because if you didn't, you're about to lose your absolute mind. The news that just broke 60 seconds ago is going to flip the entire WNBA world upside down, shake it around, and leave everyone wondering if this is real life or some kind of fever dream. Caitlin Clark, the superstar who was supposed to be done for the season, who was supposed to be watching the finals from her couch like the rest of us, just got cleared to suit up for the Indiana Fever in the WNBA Finals. I'm talking about the same Caitlin Clark who went down with that devastating groin injury weeks ago. The same player everyone wrote off, the same franchise cornerstone, who was supposed to be nothing more than a what-if story this postseason. Well, guess what? The what-if just became a what now. And the basketball gods are laughing at every single person who counted her out. You want to talk about a plot twist that nobody saw coming? This is it. This is the moment that separates the believers from the doubters. The moment that proves sometimes fairy tales do come true in professional sports. Because let me paint you a picture of how absolutely bonkers this whole situation really is. Just 3 months ago, the Indiana Fever were being called one of the worst teams in the league. Analysts were picking them to finish dead last. The roster looked like a collection of spare parts held together with athletic tape and hope. Then Caitlin Clark went down, and it felt like someone had just turned off the lights on their entire season. The fans stopped showing up, the media stopped paying attention, and even the most optimistic voices in Indianapolis started talking about next year. But here's where this story gets absolutely incredible, where reality starts reading like a Hollywood script that's too good to be true. Instead of folding like a house of cards, instead of mailing in the rest of their games and planning for the golf course, this Indiana Fever team did something that defied every piece of logic in professional basketball. They started winning. Not just winning a few games here and there. Not just playing spoiler to better teams, but actually winning games that mattered, games that counted, games that nobody on planet Earth thought they had any business even being competitive in. Aaliyah Boston stepped out of Caitlin Clark's shadow and became the leader this team desperately needed. We're talking about a player who was being overshadowed by all the Clark hype suddenly becoming the heartbeat of a playoff team. Kelsey Mitchell caught fire and stayed hot, dropping clutch shots like she was playing NBA 2K on rookie difficulty. Veterans like Natasha Howard and Odyssey Sims brought that championship experience and veteran savvy that you simply cannot teach. And Sophie Cunningham, who most people barely knew existed at the start of the season, turned into this energy-bringing, defense-playing, hustle-making spark plug that lifted everyone around her. This group became the definition of resilience, the poster child for never giving up, the living embodiment of that old sports cliche about it not being the size of the dog in the fight, but the size of the fight in the dog. They were winning games they had absolutely no business winning, beating teams that were supposed to run them off the court, and slowly, but surely climbing their way up the standings while everyone was busy counting them out. Every single night, they were proving that heart and chemistry can sometimes overcome talent and expectations. Now here's where Caitlin Clark's injury timeline becomes absolutely fascinating, because the more you dig into the details, the more you realize this whole situation was always more complicated than anyone wanted to admit. When she first went down with that groin injury, the team announced she'd miss the rest of the regular season, and everyone just assumed that meant the playoffs too. Groin injuries are notoriously tricky things, the kind of injuries that can heal in 2 weeks or linger for 2 months depending on a million different factors. The medical staff was being cautious, the front office was being protective, and Clark herself was probably frustrated beyond belief watching from the sidelines. But here's what nobody was talking about, what nobody was paying attention to while everyone was busy writing obituaries for Clark's season. Groin injuries typically have a recovery window of 2 to 6 weeks, and we're now well beyond that timeline. She's had time to heal properly, time to train behind the scenes, time to get her conditioning back, and most importantly, time to prepare mentally for what could be the biggest moment of her professional career. The question was never really about whether her body would heal. It was about whether the rules would allow her to come back. And that's where things get absolutely mind-blowing, where the WNBA's rulebook becomes more important than any X's and O's on a whiteboard. See, under normal circumstances, once playoff rosters are submitted at the end of the regular season, they're locked tighter than Fort Knox. No hardship signings, no 7-day contracts, no picking up free agents off the street. What you submit is what you get, and that's supposed to be the end of the story. But the WNBA has this little-known clause, this tiny exception buried in the collective bargaining agreement that allows teams to activate players who are already under contract but listed as inactive. We're talking about players on maternity leave, players serving suspensions, and yes, players on the injury list. And guess what category Caitlin Clark fits into? She's not some random free agent hoping for a tryout. She's signed, sealed, and delivered to the Indiana Fever organization. She's been under contract this entire time, which means she's been eligible for activation if a spot opened up or if the league granted an exception. This isn't some fantasy scenario cooked up by desperate fans. This is a legitimate pathway that exists in black and white in the official rules. The Indiana Fever front office made a decision that looked questionable at the time, but now appears to be absolutely brilliant. They submitted only 11 players for their playoff roster when they were allowed to carry 12. Most people thought this was a mistake, maybe an oversight, possibly just the moves of a front office that didn't know what they were doing. But now it looks like the most calculated, strategic, forward-thinking decision in recent WNBA history. They left that 12th spot open on purpose, keeping the door cracked just wide enough for Caitlin Clark to walk back through when the time was right. Think about the risk assessment that had to go into bringing her back. On one hand, you've got a player who hasn't practiced full speed with the team during their incredible playoff run. Her conditioning might not be where it needs to be. There's always the risk of brain injury when you're rushing someone back from a significant injury. And most importantly, you've got a team that's been playing incredible basketball without her, a group that's found their rhythm and their identity. Why mess with chemistry that's clearly working? But then you look at the other side of the equation, and the potential rewards are absolutely staggering. Even a 60% version of Caitlin Clark is still one of the most dangerous players in the entire league. Her shooting range stretches defenses to their breaking point. Her court vision creates opportunities that simply don't exist for other players. Her competitive fire and leadership lift everyone around her to a different level. We're not just talking about adding another player to the roster. We're talking about completely transforming the ceiling of what this team can accomplish. With Clark back in the lineup, the Indiana Fever suddenly have a legitimate puncher's chance against anyone, including the defending champion Las Vegas Aces. Think about how dramatically the matchups change when she's on the floor. Without Clark, opposing teams can pack the paint against Aaliyah Boston and dare Indiana's guards to beat them from the outside. With Clark back, that entire defensive strategy crumbles. Her three-point range forces defenders to extend way beyond the arc, opening up driving lanes for everyone else and creating the kind of spacing that makes good offenses great. The WNBA front office has to be watching this situation with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. Caitlin Clark isn't just any player. She's the biggest star the league has seen in years. Her presence directly impacts ticket sales, television ratings, sponsorship deals, and social media engagement. She moves the needle in ways that very few athletes in any sport can claim. The finals with Caitlin Clark returning from injury is the kind of storyline that transcends basketball and captures the attention of the entire sports world. But the league also has to consider the long-term implications. They want her healthy and safe for years to come, not just for one playoff run. If there's any doubt about her readiness, if there's any significant risk of making her injury worse, they have the power to step in and shut this whole thing down. This isn't just Indiana's decision anymore. It's become a league-wide conversation about player safety, competitive integrity, and the future direction of the WNBA. The timing of this announcement is absolutely perfect from a drama standpoint. Just when everyone thought they had the finals figured out, just when the storylines seemed set in stone, Caitlin Clark comes back to flip the entire script. The basketball world is about to witness something that could be one of the most dramatic returns in professional sports history. We're talking about a player who was written off, a team that wasn't supposed to be here, and a moment that could define careers and legacies. If Clark can step onto that court and perform at even a fraction of her usual level, if she can knock down a few big shots and make a few game-changing plays, this becomes the kind of story that gets told for decades. Kids will grow up hearing about the time Caitlin Clark came back from injury to lead the Indiana Fever to an impossible championship. Sports documentaries will be made about this playoff run. This becomes the standard by which all comeback stories are measured. And even if it doesn't work out perfectly, even if she's not quite ready or the team struggles to integrate her back into the lineup, the Indiana Fever can walk away from this season with their heads held high, knowing they gave it everything they had. They fought their way to the finals without their superstar. They left no stone unturned in their pursuit of a championship, and they proved that sometimes heart and determination can overcome talent and expectations. So here we are, on the brink of witnessing something truly special. The Indiana Fever, the team nobody believed in, is about to get their franchise player back for the biggest games of the season. Caitlin Clark, the superstar who was supposed to be done for the year, is about to step back onto the court where she belongs. And basketball fans everywhere are about to see whether fairy tales can still come true in professional sports. The stage is set. The players are ready, and history is waiting to be written. This is what makes sports beautiful, what makes all the heartbreak and disappointment worth it, what reminds us why we fell in love with basketball in the first place. Sometimes, just sometimes, the good guys win, and the stories have happy endings. Are you ready for what's about to happen? Because I don't think any of us are truly prepared for the magic that's about to unfold on that court.